Hi all, this is the continuation of the part 2 of manual testing, and if you haven't gone through part 1 and part 2, I recommend you to go through part 1 and part 2 before viewing this video, as this will be a continuation, and it will be much better for you all to understand if you can just go through part 1 and part 2. Here I'll be continuing with the manual testing. Last time in the last video I had been discussing about test design techniques. Now I have missed out one of the test design techniques in last videos. I'll just be covering a quick cover on that. So the last I have said that there is one white box testing, one black box testing. I'm not going much in discreet about this. The point that I missed was the informal testing. There is another testing that is known as informal testing, uh, that is being performed. So let me get to that slide. Okay. There is another testing kind of testing apart from white box testing and black box testing, that is known as informal testing, and this is majorly a experience based testing. Okay, so it actually consists of error guessing and exploratory testing or ad hoc testing or destructive testing. So error guessing is just as you know that we guess there can be some error in the application, and we perform some kind of activities on that, we perform some kind of test on that, most probably like negative scenarios. Okay, for example, you have a username and a password. Now if you enter a wrong username and wrong password, or a right username and wrong password, okay, so in such scenarios you may get errors. Okay, so here what you can test is, you know already the error, so you can go for a negative testing. So this kind of testing will fall under your experience based testing, and this is just a example, so it can be even more indiscreet about what is error based testing. Exploratory testing, that's just a kind of testing where you don't have a flow of the testing, that you have to perform a certain activity and then you have to continue with the other activity, or you don't have a documentation proper for that kind of testing. You just explore the, as per name itself, okay, you just explore the application, and you try to understand the application, and mostly we don't try to find defects in this exploratory testing. We will just explore the application, we will just get familiarized with the application, how the application works and how it and then we will further proceed with the other testing. And the last one is the ad hoc testing. This kind of testing is generally performed after all the formal testing has been performed, like smoke sanity and all whatever techniques that we have learned. We'll just be learning about that in next video. So after all the formal testing has been completed and still you have time left, so you can go for an ad hoc testing, and in many industries they even call it as a destructive testing, because there is no formal flow, and the only difference, as in many interviews will get this question, that what is the difference between an ad hoc testing and an exploratory testing. So if ad hoc testing is performed majorly after you have completed with all your formal testings, and exploratory testing can is generally performed before you start off with the application, real testing, so that you get familiar with the application, you know about the flow, you know about the modules, you know about the functionality of the testing, sorry, of the application. Okay, so this is a major difference. So in exploratory testing you will not be able to determine exactly that defect that you have got is a defect or not a defect, but in ad hoc testing it's performed majorly after you have completed with all your formal testing. So here any defect that you track, okay, so that you can log it as a defect. Okay, and why this is this is also one of the important, but with again with many industries, different kind of project, different kind of protocols that company follows. Okay, it can be different, but what is the main important role that you have to act in this ad hoc testing is, like, you know, when you get a defect you will have to track it down, you'll have to link it with a particular test case if it's existing. Okay, and suppose if there is no such test case existing, you will try to link it up with the nearest test case that is existing. Okay, finally, suppose we don't have any test case at all to link it, with the current defect that you have got during the ad hoc testing. So this is where this ad hoc testing comes majorly into picture, that you'll have to create a test case against that, no doubt with approval. Okay, that is there. If there is no test case that is covering that particular defect, so you'll have to create a regression test case against that, and you'll push it into the regression. So anyway, we will discuss that in the bug life cycle and other videos that will be coming up. So and another, in many industries they call it as ad hoc testing, in many industries they call as destructive testing. For example, if you go for companies like Zynga and all, so they call it as a destructive testing, whereas many standard companies, CTS, TCS, they will call it as an ad hoc testing. Even Intel will call it as an ad hoc testing. So basically both are the same perspective, but even in interviews, if somebody asks you that what is ad hoc and destructive, there's no such very major difference. As per name, you can say, yeah, definitely that at destructive testing you can perform any sort of activity that you like. Okay, that is not even permissible by the application, but you're fiddling up with the URLs, you're fiddling up with the application, you're trying to change the protocols or anything into the application. Okay, definitely with the prior approval, and you find any sort of defect, so that can be logged. Okay, and that's prominent, so obviously that is how you call it as a destructive testing. Okay, now this was the end of this test strategy planning. Okay, suppose that was it. So now in next test design techniques, this was this test design techniques, and next what we will continue with another topic. I told there are 4 stages, so we'll continue with this stage, that is your software test process or software test life cycle. Now, software test life cycle process or software development life cycle, they're very similar to software development life cycle that we have. Sorry, I have made a mistake here again, so it should be STLC and not STLC. Okay, software test life cycle, STLC, as we learned in the first video, that what is STLC and how it functions, what are the flows, and how different kind of models. Okay, and how do we implement in the real scenarios. Okay, so now we are here with the software test life cycle. This is also, you can consider, a part of software development life cycle, because as software testing is itself a part of a development life cycle. So majorly here we will have 4 steps. Okay, 4 different steps that we will perform during software test life cycle. I'll try to give you a different video also explicitly on software testing life cycle. Okay, with the flow chart and all, but for now I'll just be briefing you about all the software testing life cycle and how it is performed. Okay, so we have 4 major operations to do here. First is test planning, then we have test design, test case execution, and test case test closure. Okay, these are the 4 different things and that we'll be following. So let's start with the first one, that is test planning. Now each of these stages have their own features, own process that we go under. Okay, now test planning. As per test planning, now majorly this part, test planning, this is performed by your lead, by the test lead. This is a responsibility actually of test lead, but definitely even you can be a part of test planning many a times, many industries, depending again on the kind of industry you are working, the kind of protocols that company follows, and the kind of project that you're working in. So there can be a different way of approach towards the test planning, but majorly as per standards, test plannings are done by your test leads or by your test managers. Okay, so what are the responsibilities, roles and responsibility of test planning? So first is understanding and analyzing the requirements. So there are different requirements that you get. We will talk in discrete about requirements and how requirements we will consolidate that, how we come from requirement to testing phase in one of the video. I'll just give you further coming videos. Okay, so one of the thing is that you have to understand and analyze the test requirements that you get for the particular application that is coming into. Next is the risk analysis. You need to analyze the risk in testing. Suppose that application is actually testable, that environment is suitable or not. For example, you want for testing a particular, you have a GPS dependency, you have to go to suppose Chennai for testing, and you have to go to some other place, like you have to go to US or you have to go to Canada for testing that particular. So we need to analyze the risk. Okay, next is the test strategy implementation. So that is your TDS, your test design specification actually. So how are you going to implement your the test design techniques that we have just seen in the previous video? Okay, so how are we going to implement that test design completely into the current planning? Okay, so that is how we will define it. Okay, that what are the tests that we are going to perform and how we are going to perform. Okay, next is the test estimation, or in other words we can say test estimation is a form of budgeting, that we can say that how much time it is going, how much work hours it's taking, how many team members it's taking, how many what will be the full form budget at the end of the day when you finish up with this project. Okay, so that estimation is known as your test estimation. Next comes is the team formation, configuration management planning, defining test environment setup. Defining test environment setup means is just what you have to specify, that what are the requirements in the environment that you need to specify, means what you need to have for testing the particular application. For example, let's take you have an application and that runs on mobile, your Android device or an iOS device, and we have priority device as maybe Samsung S3 or Samsung Note 3. Okay, let's take it Note 3. Now this is environment setup. We will have to have these devices in our handy with us in order to perform this tests. Okay, so in that case you cannot proceed with the testing until unless you have this device. So that's test environment planning. So that's just an example, it can be a lot more. Okay, that actually test design environment setup will focus more into setting up the environment for the testing as much as closer to the real environment, as much as the application is going to function in the real environment. That is what formally it says. Okay, so there are a few more other things, like in the test design, in the test planning phase, you will also have to define an entry criteria for the testing and an exit criteria for testing. Okay, so we will discuss this also much later. Okay, about this in much next forthcoming videos, that what is entry criteria and exit criteria. So we have test design techniques. The next phase in STLC, the second phase, that will be your test design technique. So we have test case, generating test case scenarios, HLTC, the test case documentation, and test data collection. So anyway, I'll be stopping this video right here. I'll just be continuing with this test design technique in my next video. This was all from this video. Guys, if you did like my video, if really did help you, please do support me. Really take a great time, will take a great time to contribute you, to share my knowledge with you all guys. So just please comment, share, like and subscribe to my channel for next coming videos. Okay, and if you have any explicit request on any of this topic that you want to know about, please do make a comment, please do send me a mail. Okay, and thanks for watching.